Welcome everybody. My name is Tom, and with me today I have John Tumbleson. And
good morning.
We are going to be talking about MXNet. This is a really cool new ecosystem from AVPro Edge, and this is an ecosystem that is going to allow integrators to really do installations that they've wanted to do for a long time with AVPro Edge products, but kind of had some limitations on what we were offering. With the introduction of MXNet, it's an AV over IP, sometimes called networked AV. It's a infrastructure of audio video distribution that is based on networking infrastructure. But we convert that networking infrastructure to send these high quality, high bandwidth audio video data. Other companies have done it. There's other solutions out there, but there's not quite solutions like MXNet. We knew if we were going to bring an AV over IP system to you guys, to our customers, it had to be the best. We had to break barriers, and we really had to change the game, and that's what we did. So today, this is John. He's the man behind this product. He's been working on it for almost 2 years, making sure that, you know, when it gets into the hands of the integrator, they're going to be happy. Now, thank you, John, for joining me.
Well, thank you, and I'm glad to be here. And of course, when I started working on this, I didn't have any gray hair. So yeah, I've been working on it for quite a while.
Yeah, exactly. Look what it's done to him, but all the benefits to you. So before we get all the way into this, guys, if you are watching it live on the GoToWebinar, you can go. There's a questions tab, and if you have any questions throughout this entire presentation, just type it up, send it on, and send it on over. Now, we might not get to the questions throughout the presentation, but we are going to answer every single question at the very end of this. So we're going to try to keep it a nice, tight 45-minute presentation that's going to give you all the ins and outs of AV over IP from AVPro and the MXNet system. And then after that, we're going to go into the details and the technical stuff that you guys have those questions. And so we'll do that afterwards. Type those in. If you're watching on YouTube, no problem. It's the same way. You just type it directly into the comment section below on this video, and we one of our reps will reach out to you and make sure that you have all your answers. The questions that you have will have answers. So now let's get into what is MXNet. Let's not bury the lead. I'm going to pull up my presentation right here, and we're going to look at what MXNet is. So right here, this is the MXNet. It's a networked video ecosystem. What that means by ecosystem is very important, right? This is not where an encoder and decoder are just tied up to any switch, right, John?
Right. Yeah. No, this is from the ground up. Every single component has been designed, and engineered, and developed by us to perform together at optimum performance and quality.
Exactly. And so that includes the network switch, the encoder, the decoder, the controller, even all the way down to the SFP adapters. You can get those all in-house from the MXNet ecosystem. Now, that network switch is going to be the most important part, right, John? I mean, there's a lot of people that have put out AV over IP systems, but they don't have their own network switch. You do have to rely on a third-party network switch. Now, our system will work on third-party network switches, yes, no problem.
Correct.
But John is about to show you here the creme de la creme as we developed our own network switch. Now, just kind of touch on this a little bit, John, of what you're holding here and what makes this network switch special.
Well, yeah, there's a lot of things that make it special because we really started from the ground up. We started from bare metal, as they call it, and completely redid everything. So we have our own operating system in here. We then also reworked and re-engineered all of the main software components and modules within a switch that are normally designed to send email and things like that, and we re-engineered them strictly for AV optimization. So, for example, if you've heard of a term called IGMP, we completely re-engineered IGMP so that, and we'll see during the demo and as we get further into the presentation, the benefits of all of that. But basically, you have the highest performing switch you can get in this market segment.
And the way that the ecosystem plays into that is because we developed a switch and we develop the encoders and the decoders, the controller, we can develop them all to work together specifically. We can pre-configure the switch, so if you're not an IT expert, you can still install MXNet, no problem. The switch is all pre-configured to work with this system. Now, that is what this MXNet ecosystem is. It's a networked AV line of products. It is an AV over IP system. That is what we're going to talk about today. And so as we get into it, let's kind of talk about what is an AV over IP system. We can look at this quick connection diagram here, John, and this is going to give us, you know, the basic layout. So what you guys are seeing is you see 4K sources on the left-hand side. You see a 4K displays on the right-hand side. There's actually could be 20 sources, or there could be 30 sources, or it could be 40 displays. However you want to set up this system, you have 48 ports with this 48 port switch. We also have a 24 port switch that you can get into. You have to remember that each one of these encoders and decoders throughout this presentation, we're going to call them endpoints. And each one of these endpoints, so you can have 48 endpoints on this. Now, your controller has to count as one endpoint, and that is going to see where you can see this MXNet C box. It's connected to a local area network, and then to our MXNet Mentor, which is built into the actual control box. And this is a platform that really does walk the integrator through the setup process. It really is a mentor to the person who is installing this product. And this is designed directly from John. We are going to look directly at the Mentor, but do you want to give him a little sneak peek of what the Mentor is and where it came from in your mind?
Well, you know, the whole idea behind this was, you know, I've worked in the past. I've hung TVs. I've installed all kinds of AV over IP systems. You know, anywhere from Just Add Power, AVPro, etc., so on and so forth. And you know, there's always certain numbers of pain points associated with those, you know, installing these systems. And my vision was with MXNet was to eliminate as many of those pain points, if not all of those pain points, as I could possibly, you know, come up with and think of. And so part of it was to have a configuration tool that was really powerful, but extremely easy to use and understand. And that's how MXNet kind of got started. And it kind of took on a life of its own with MXNet Mentor, which is to the point that we had to actually give it a name itself. So it's not just the MXNet setup utility, it is MXNet Mentor, which is part of the MXNet ecosystem.
Exactly, and you guys, you're going to get a full demo on that, so definitely look forward to that. I did just want to show a multi-switch setup as well. You know, you need to go beyond that 48 ports, no problem. I mean, in this setting right here, you have a 48, a 48, a 48, all combined and connected. You can put different sources and different syncs all combined there. If you need to go, your system gets larger and larger and larger, we can always help you handle it. We have product specialists that are just standing by helping integrators, you know, map out exactly how they're going to set that up. And John, you are even one of those people that can help integrators set up, right?
Absolutely. And the beauty of our system, though, is that if let's say you're going to stack 2 switches, you don't have to do anything. We don't have to set it up just out of the box. Take it out, put it in the rack. If you have 2 switches, just set them, you know, both in there. Put in the SFP connector, interconnects to link them together, and you're done. There's no configuration. This is truly a plug and play. And also, I wanted to point out one other thing on the chart. If you'll see over to the right, you see a little icon of looks like a laptop PC, and it says MXNet on it. That is what you are doing is your MXNet runs on the control box, or MXNet Mentor runs on the control box, and it is web based. It is HTML5 based. So you don't have to use a PC laptop. You can use an iPad or your phone or a variety of anything that'll run a modern HTML5 type browser. Anything can do that.
Incredible.
You can do, you don't need any special software.
That's absolutely incredible, John. So we're going to just take a close look here. You can, you know, make our slider bigger if you want. We can actually show you these encoders and decoders we have around here somewhere. John, do you want to grab them right behind your computer there? On the left-hand side, you're going to see our encoder. On the right-hand side, you're going to see our decoder. You guys can take a look at all the ports, but as you can see, we definitely went to the max and filled this out as much as we possibly can. Includes HDMI loop out. We actually have a down mixing version of our encoder, so you can down mix, you know, multi-channel beyond 5.1 audio into a 2-channel for whole home delivery. As you can see, you have our network switch right here, the 48 port that John held up earlier, and then our control box in the bottom right. You can see the front and back has a little screen, and then the connections to it. So these are the main parts of that ecosystem. Now, why is it MXNet different? What makes us unique compared to a lot of other AV over IP solutions out there? And one of those things is also system components were designed by us. You know, we talked about it before. This is this whole ecosystem that we talked about at the beginning. But the reason that's important is because it makes it easy to set up. Like John just said, I mean, this is a plug and play type of thing. So it makes it for easy setup. So now you have a long-term stable solution with an easy setup.
Yes, it's a true platform. And what makes the difference is that every component was designed to work together. Mm-hmm. That we didn't go out and design an encoder without thinking about, you know, the decoder as well, you know, or the switch itself, or the control box, or any of those things.
Exactly. I just want to make sure that was working all right. And then so the next one is fast switching. I mean, this is incredibly fast switching, and a lot of systems do fast switching. I mean, we have the other systems in ours that do fast switching. What really makes this fast switching cool is that different format changes fast switching. So a lot of systems, you get it kind of in there, and you get 1080p together, and you're switching 1080p to 1080p. Wow, look how fast it goes. With the MXNet system, you could be switching 4K to 1080p to a Dolby Vision, all different format changes, and still switch as fast.
Exactly. Yeah, generally in less than 2 seconds.
That's insane, guys. Video over USB, each one of these has a USB port. So if you want to kind of show them on this unit, you can kind of see that. I'll take one and you take the other. We have a USB host device right here. And then on the other end, we have our USB devices where you would actually plug in. So this could be on one end of the install. This is on the other end of the install. And you can route those USB 2.0 signals, including audio video signals from webcams and different things like that.
If you need more than 2 USB ports, you can use a hub.
Easy as that.
Fine. Yeah.
Easy as that. And you have unlimited video walls. You can configure as many as you want. You can execute as many as you want. You have extensive video format control. So that means it's handling 720, it's handling 4K. You can switch interlace to progressive, so you have easier switching and easier handling with those troublesome formats. And then it's topped with our 10-year warranty, which is just really that cherry on top when it comes to our systems here. So we are not talking about what we did different. Now let's talk about what we did to give the integrators the real tool to make this system sing. Make this system so that when you install it, you have confidence. Didn't take you forever. If you have any troubled areas, it's easy to find. And we built those tools directly into the system. And that's what we're covering here. One of those things is scaling. It's something that AVPro Edge does really well is we scale. You choose that resolution. Format conversion, interlace to progressive. That's the same type of thing that the SE2 is giving on other products through AVPro Edge, and we're putting it into the system, showing how our engineering, as it grows and develops, we're able to use that technology throughout our other products. You have unlimited video walls. We have a proprietary switch that we talked about. But one thing we haven't talked about is low power consumption. Yes. Now, John, why is that important?
Well, I mean, there's a lot of reasons for it. The first thing is on any kind of switch, and our switches are PoE, full PoE, all the ports are powered. You have a 740 watt power budget. However, our encoders and decoders use between 3 and 6 watts of power. So even a fully populated 48 port switch is going to come in under 300 watts in terms of power consumption. So that's a tremendous low power. Now, a couple of things happen. If you don't use as much power, you don't generate as much heat. That means the components don't get so hot. That means they last longer. And of course, the switch is happier as well because it's not having to put out so much power, and therefore it doesn't have to crank the fans up. So everything's quieter. It just works better. It's smoother. And it's a great, when you have control over these kinds of designs and the way you want things to work, There's nothing like a system that comes together like this.
Exactly, and that's what you got. You got no fans. They engineered this thing properly. You also have routing for IR, RS-232 signals, just like we did for USB. We can show that quickly in the Mentor system. One important thing for all of our customers that are working large scale, commercial Pro AV type installations, you need to force RGB color sometimes because a lot of projectors and different things, that's what the signal is going to work with. Well, you can do that by putting that tool into the integrator's hands. He chooses what kind of color space you need to use. You also have full metadata control for HDR. Now, John, can you kind of give us a little breakdown of how this works? I know you were telling me with 1080p, it can still manage the HDR. Kind of tell the integrators how that is a benefit.
Right, yeah, well, a lot of these configuration tools that we're listing here are in MXNet Mentor. They're in the Mentor software already, and a lot of it's checkboxes. For metadata control, I have the ability just to take a 4K HDR signal, and I can say, you know what, I want it to be 1080p. I want to reduce how much bandwidth I'm using, but I still want to retain that HDR metadata. So I still get all those colors, and the pop and all that kind of stuff that HDR presents. So I can actually do that. I can set the scaling to 1080p, but then check a box that says retain the HDR metadata right there, right in Mentor. It's just that easy.
Exactly, just putting the power into the integrator's hands, and that's what we are trying to do throughout this whole thing. The same thing with bandwidth management. John will actually show you that a little bit, but you actually choose how much data is flowing through each one of your ports by selecting, well, is this for a closed circuit TV that doesn't need a lot of data? Is this for a high 4K signal that does need a lot of data? You choose that, and you're able to control the kind of signals that are coming through, the health of that signal, all through that MXNet Mentor that we'll look at here in a little bit. And very importantly, guys, we have been talking about this being an ecosystem, but this is third-party switches. You have a Cisco, you have Luxel, you have Netgear. These are you like to use those. You're used to installing those. Yes. No problem, guys. Yes. You can install these encoders and decoders in those systems. And then you would be able to still use that same kind of style that you would like. You can configure that switch yourself. Now, we would say that the most optimized system is going to be with our switch, but it doesn't hold you back from using another switch at all.
Any switch that can support what's called multicast, you can use. You're going to see situations, we've already run into them as we've been building this system, and some of them are going to be existing installations in which let's say the encoders and decoders are failing, they're having trouble finding replacement parts, they've got to do something, so they want to just swap out all of the old stuff and put in new stuff. Well, you're going to have some legacy things in there. The switches may still be okay, they may already be configured for multicast, so you could keep those switches. Maybe they're Cisco's, maybe they're Luxel's, whatever they may be. You may even be able to keep the wiring because this 1 gig system will run on a Cat 5e type cabling. We recommend Cat 6a if possible, but you can get by on 5e, and so you'll still be able to use a lot of legacy pieces, even though maybe the new heart, the new engine is MXNet.
That makes sense. And then the same with control systems. I mean, if you have been using AVPro Edge products, you know that we support other control systems. We have drivers for Control 4, URC, Crestron, any of the a full API if you're building your own system. So yeah, whatever you needed for control, know that we do support, and we put that support out there. So now, we talked about what makes it optimized for integrators. Now let's talk about the troubleshooting tools. And this is going to really tie into MXNet. So I'm going to blow over a lot of this stuff because John will really kind of show you where and when to do this. But you have complete hot plug event control. You have over-the-air remote firmware updates. That means you can, which John is going to do, get into a system remotely and make the updates that you need to. Now, we talked about the data window you may have seen really quickly, but each one of the encoders and decoders actually has a small screen right here that is going to be able to give you the MAC address, the alias, the IP address. It can flash so you can find it quickly. A bunch of really cool just tools that integrators can use to get on a site, get the job figured out, and get out of there as quick as possible onto the next site so that they can continue making money as all of us want to do. And then you have HDMI signal diagnostics, network strength diagnostics,
Yes.
you have EDID management, you have this remote monitoring. These are all things that we have built into this ecosystem to give integrators some real diagnostics and troubleshooting tools, so that if it's a year down the road, they get on site and they, everything's been working perfectly, but in the meantime, somebody put a hammer directly through a cable and messed something up, or put a nail right through a cable and messed something up and didn't even know about it. One of the zones went out. Now you can go and find out what's going on with that zone, which zone it is,
Exactly.
and the information that you need to get from there. Now, we're not joking when we say that this is a large scale setup,
Yes.
right, John?
Yes. Yes.
And this is proving this right here. This is an active MXNet system, and each one of these boxes that you see is an encoder or decoder. So we have a 140 endpoint system set up right now that has been running and ongoing and making sure that this is going to be able to last for a long time. And we wanted to show you guys these very specific pictures where each one of these things is working, is happening, and we knew that we weren't going to put out a product and say that you can expand it and say that it can be so big without having to run it through the ringer.
Yeah, we got to run it through the ringer. We have to test it. We don't want it to be just theoretical. We want it to
exactly. And so and that's what we're doing here. And so this is this 140 endpoint system that we are running. This is at our testing facilities. We had to do a lot of work to try to figure out how we could get 140 different endpoints of displays and sources, but we were able to work it out. It has been running very extremely smooth. We did find small bugs in it, and then we were able to knock those bugs right out, being able to produce and give you a system that's already been tested, that's already been field tested, which makes it really, really powerful. So now we talked about why it's great for integrators, right? And we talked about, what makes it optimized and what we've engineered and what you thought of. But why is it important for your customers? During that customer interview, how are you going to get them to choose an AV over IP system like MXNet? And some of those are with leading source switching. That means you have fast switching to any sources. You can repeat those sources as many times as you wanted, and you have unlimited control over those different switches. You have video walls, an unlimited amount of video walls. If you need 10 video walls, 12 video walls, it doesn't matter. There's no limit to the amount of video walls that you can set up with the Mentor and then implement into your customer system. It's expandable. It's expandable so much so that if you have an open port on your network switch and your system's working, you can hot plug a new decoder right in, add a zone, and it doesn't even shut down your entire system. Nothing fails. It's absolutely incredible. I've seen John do it. Then you have control system compatibility, so it works with whatever control system they want to use. Maybe they want a Crestron system, they want a QSys system, they want a Control 4 system. That's what you like to use, no problem. This is going to implement perfectly into it. Even all of the video wall stuff with the Control 4, you barely even need MX Mentor. It just allows it to all configure it right away.
Yeah, the Control 4 driver is actually pretty impressive. You could almost bypass Mentor. It doesn't have the analysis tools that Mentor has. But,
exactly.
But it's still fantastic.
There's going to always be those times that you need to pull up that Mentor, and it's going to save you. And so it's always going to be there, even if you don't need it during setup. Right. And then you have a system that works. This has a 10-year warranty. The switch has a 10-year warranty, and this is a no-nonsense type of warranty. We make sure that we have you covered, and in turn, we have your customers covered. Now, a lot of people may say, hey, Tom, I've heard you talk a lot about video distribution over the last few years.
Yes.
What are you talking about AV over IP for? You are a uncompressed guy. You want the best picture quality, and that's true. That hasn't taken away. I love uncompressed signals. I love optimal picture quality. I love Dolby Vision and HDR. I love film. That's not changing. But what is changing is what we can do with audio video technology.
Yes.
And so as you can see, we have kind of these two different dichotomies of, you have your traditional on HDBaseC and ICT. That could also be considered just HDMI, uncompressed HDMI. And on the right-hand side, we have MXNet, which is compressing it onto a network system. So what are the differences between these two? As you can see, you're going to have quick switching, you're going to have fiber and copper support, you're going to have video scaling, you're going to be able to do Dolby Vision, you're going to be able to do 4K 60, 444 on both of them. But if you really, really wanted the best picture quality, you wanted the best absolute zero compression or the lightest compression, well, then you go with our traditional matrix switches, our DAs, our extenders that way. Now, if you need limitless outputs, tons of video walls, huge systems that are going to be changing, be expanding and contracting as much as you need them to, well, there's only one solution. It's MXNet.
And it's, yeah, and it's the flexibility that MXNet gives you, because you're no longer dealing with a fixed matrix that has a limited number of inputs and outputs. You now have a system that has, well, I'm not going to say completely unlimited on the input side, because you do have bandwidth considerations and all that, but you have a very easy system that allows you to mix and match the inputs and outputs, and give you a system that matches what your customers' needs are.
Incredible. So with that is kind of this system in a nutshell. John, if you can take over now, and
Okay.
let's show the people the MXNet Mentor software. I'm going to just stop sharing my screen here, guys, and then we're going to have John actually pull up his. So now what John is doing, we are in the AVPro Edge anti-COVID bunker of cleanliness. We're around none of our other people. So we have our lab back at the other site across, we're miles and miles away from where our actual MXNet Mentor, or excuse me, MXNet ecosystem is set up. So what John is going to do here
is I'm going to try to figure out which menu item I choose here.
Oh, okay.
You want to give it a quick shot, Tom?
Yeah, I'll get it right over here. We'll go into sharing, change
sharing.
presenter. We want to choose John Tumbleson. It's a big list. A lot of people came. I appreciate everybody coming out.
There's me.
You see yourself?
I see myself.
Click yourself.
There we go.
All right, and then
now you show my screen.
Yep.
And now I'm going to quickly jump over to TeamViewer, where I am remotely now connected to my system. So we should be able to now see MXNet Mentor live, and this is a live presentation. Basically, I mean, I'm actually connected to an MXNet switch with our control box, and we have, in this case, we've got 4 encoders and 15 decoders, or also known as transmitters and receivers. Some people like to call them, refer to them as that. So, and what I'm going to do is just give you a quick overview of some of the more critical pieces to this software.
Yeah, first, how did you get into the system? I mean, you're just on your computer right here, we're controlling it, but how did you get to this MXNet Mentor, and how did you connect to that control box?
Okay, well, so the control box is simply using any standard browser, modern browser. You know, so it can be Explorer, it could be Chrome on Macs, it could be Safari, even iPads, you know, Safari, that kind of thing. And I entered the URL if I was on the local area network, because this can be on the local area network. That's one of the cool things about the control box, is that it filters out the multicast traffic through the LAN connection, so you don't have to worry about flooding your local network with multicast traffic, which is something that's usually a scary thought for most AV installations. You don't have to worry about it with our system.
Yeah, you don't want to freak out the IT guy, you know.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah, so the IT guy can relax and you'll be fine. Now, in this case, I am accessing this system using TeamViewer. But there could be lots of other ways to do it. I could use, for example, I could use a VPN of some kind. There's another one called Overseer or something.
Yep, Overseer.
Yeah. There's lots of them that you could actually use to get in there and remotely access it. Again, because it's web-based, it makes life very easy to get to. This is what we're looking at right now, is the home page, or the system utilities page, and this has lots of different things. This allows me to go in and change IP addresses and set that kind of stuff up. But it also, you'll notice I have the ability to update firmware on a variety of things. So for example, let's say I wanted to update the firmware on one of our decoders or receivers. I have the ability to go in and just simply choose the file I want. And in this case, I'm not going to actually choose a file, because I don't want to start that process in the middle of a demo, but this is where I could go in and say I want to use this file. And once I do that, then all I have to do is select the decoders that I want to use. And for example, if I just go through and click these.
So it just pulled up all the decoders, those 14 that you had talking about.
Yep.
It just already has this list, and now you can pick which ones you're going to send that firmware to.
Yeah.
I mean,
yeah, for example, if I had new firmware and I just wanted to test it on one, make sure it was okay before I send it out to the rest of them, I could just choose that one, or I could choose all of them. And then all I have to do is hit it once, hit the update button once, and I'm done. Now it sends it out as fast for one update as it does for all of them, because this is multicast. So it's kind of like, you're driving around in a car listening to the radio station and it starts playing a new song. Everybody's radio that's tuned to that same station is going to start hearing that same song at the same time. So it literally usually about 30 seconds, I can upgrade the firmware on even 100 of them at a time.
That's absolutely wild and so cool. And just another tool for our integrators.
Right. Then we have down below, we can see the exclamation point in red, and this is kind of a little area with a bunch of red words and the buttons and so forth. This is more of the kind of system critical stuff that you don't necessarily want to do unless you really feel you need to. So that's why it's in red. But I have things like I can reboot the entire system, I can restore it to factory, as well as factory reset any transmitter or receiver or encoder decoder. Reboot those, and in some cases, if I wanted to take something off the system, I have the ability to actually remove it physically from the database so it doesn't show up anywhere.
That's incredible.
Yeah, nice things there. Where we get to the heart of things is with the configure page.
Yeah.
So let's get right there and get going on this. So right now we're looking at the first tab, which is our encoder tab, and we can see my 5 different encoders that I have. And I have the ability to name them. So if we look at this second column from the left, it says custom name. This is a place that normally, if I don't have a name, customized name in there, or alias is a lot of people like to call it, it will be the MAC address of the unit itself. So I just highlighted that over here on the right. So that's what the custom name would show, is the MAC address. However, once I go in here and I start changing it, so I could call this, Roku, 2, whatever I might want to do, and hit enter, and I've now made that change.
Oh, cool.
Just like that.
Yeah, right now, on the fly.
Right on the fly. And what'll happen is the little display on the front here of the receiver, or in this case the encoder, will also say Roku 2 on it instantly as soon as I hit enter. Okay. So that's the easy setup part there. Just go in, plug in. So what you want to do is you start out by plug in your switch, fire it up, plug it into power, plug in all your encoders and decoders, then go get a cup of coffee. About 5 minutes later, come back. MXNet Mentor will have cataloged all the things you plugged in, and they'll all be listed out in both your encoder and decoder tabs. Okay.
So with this, you didn't have to go in and say, I want to add 4 encoders, I want to add 14 decoders. You just started the system, plugged into the switch, and it said what you have connected.
Yes. And you can plug them in any order you want. Now, I don't recommend that you get too crazy. A little semblance of organization is always a good thing, but you're not forced to have to put all the transmitters or encoders all together, and all the receivers or decoders all together. You can put them anywhere. Now, the real advantage is down the road, your customer says, I want to add another source. Now, on some systems, if you wanted to add another source or another decoder, what would happen? You'd have to blow it up. You'd have to literally tear it apart, unplug everything, rerun configuration software, and to make it, so that it could handle that additional encoder. And the problem is, then you also have to rewrite the driver. Okay, so it is a nightmare. It is a multiple truck roll. It costs a lot of money, not only for the customer, for the change order.
Yeah, just to add one display.
Yeah, but it takes a lot of time to do it. With MXNet, you just plug this into the switch, any available port on the switch. The system, the control box is going to see it. It's going to recognize it, It's going to add it to the list, and you're set to go.
And you go away. You don't have to even shut the system down. Your MX Mentor system, if you log into it, it'll recognize that new one. It really is an incredible innovation for AV over IP technology.
Yeah, it's fun. And so we go through, we give everything custom names so that you know what they are or where they are, and you can get creative with the custom names. You have up to 12 characters, no spaces, but dashes are fine. And what you want to do is kind of name those in a way that kind of gives you an idea of where they are. And it kind of depends on what the installation is going to be. So is it going to be in a residential situation? It could be bedroom, or master bedroom, whatever. In a commercial situation, you might have West Bar 1, West Bar 2, West Bar 3, that kind of thing. So, but you name them how you want. If you need more information, you also have a description field right next to the custom name, so you can put even more information in here, like next to fireplace, whatever it might be. You just type it in.
Just for keeping yourself organized.
Yep, just like that. As we go through, we'll take a little quick look at output resolution. Okay, right now most of them are set to pass through, but let's say I want to send a 4K signal to a TV that I know can't do 4K. I can literally come in here, click on the pass through, and set the resolution to what I want it to be, and that will force the decoder to send it out as a 1080p signal.
That's so cool.
So just right on the fly like that. That's all I have to do, and it's done.
You don't have to reboot the system again or
Nothing.
reboot the source. No, it does it all for you, which is so cool.
Yep. A couple other things. The IP address, of course, is auto-generated. The MAC address is auto-generated, obviously. Then we see something called OSD. Okay, that means on-screen display. So I can go to any, in this case, any receiver or decoder, and I can just click on it to turn on the on-screen display. What that'll do is in the lower left-hand corner of the display that I just turned that on, it will show information about that decoder. It'll say its name, the custom name you assigned it. It'll also have its IP address. It'll have its MAC address. And last but not least, it'll have the source it's getting its signal from. So just like that. Now, what's cool is I can turn them all on if I want, or I can turn them all off if I want. But this is a really cool tool in terms of helping to identify the location of things when you're doing the setup. It's an indispensable setup tool. We also have light controls. Light controls are, I love this. Now, one of the things you can do with light controls is you can flash them or turn them on. So if I hit flash, what will happen is they'll start blinking. Not only the info window display will start blinking, but the power light, the link lights, and even the network lights in the back of the system where the Ethernet port is, on the back of the box will blink. Okay, so it makes it easy to locate something. And let's say you've got a display and it's supposed to be playing an Apple TV, and instead it's playing a DirecTV, and you're saying, why is that? Let's go find the correct decoder. Where is it? Let's turn it on. Let's make it flash. And then go look behind each TV until you find the one that's flashing. Okay, that's one way to do it. Of course, you can also use the on-screen display as well. But where it really gets cool, especially on the decoder side, the receiver side, is when you install, let's say, a display in a dark room, in a dark environment.
A home theater.
A home theater, right? And you've got 100% light control in there. The last thing you want is for the customers to see all the data lights blinking and reflecting against the wall behind the display. Okay, so what do you normally do? You get out the electrical tape.
Yeah, I grab my electrical tape. I cover this side up. I cover like this side up. Try to get it around all my wires that are in there. It becomes a sticky mess.
Yep. What I do here instead, I just click off. All lights are off. Even the data lights, network lights, everything is off.
So it'll look like it's just a dead unit sitting there behind your TV, but it's passing that beautiful quality picture that you need.
We're expecting some tech support calls from people that are going to forget that they turned the lights off, and they're going to say the system's not working because nothing lights up. So, but it's actually a feature. It's not it's not a bug.
Very cool, John.
So that's that part. Now here's where it gets fun. Let's say, for example, I'm not getting a picture on something. Well, I have a whole diagnostics set of pages. So I'm going to click on the diagnostics and show you these right now. So here on the encoder side, we can see the diagnostics. we can see, of course, what we saw before with the regular setups. The things that matter here, that are important not only for the encoders but also for the decoders, are one, the network connection, and right next to it, the connection speed. The way a network switch works versus, let's say an HD-based T switch, a network switch's job in life is to deliver an email, let's say, okay? And it's like the postman, neither, snow or sleet or whatever is going to stop me from getting that email from point A to point B. And the problem is that what it does is it sends out an acknowledgement request to the receiver and says, did you get that? And the receiver says no. Okay, I'll send it again. Did you get it this time? The receiver says no. So this goes on and on and on. So now you can start to see this back and forth starts to slow things down. So what it does next is says, okay, instead of sending it at 1 gig speed, I'm going to slow it down to 100 megabits. Did you get it now? And the receiver might say, yes, I got it. Okay, well, okay, so we're going to slow that port down that you're connected to 100 megabits. Now that might be great for an email, but if
you got a Dolby Vision picture,
if you got Dolby Vision or whatever, even to a certain extent 1080p, yeah, it's gonna wreak havoc on the picture quality. So this diagnostics allows you to be able to see the condition of your connections, not only your HDMI connections, but also your category wire connections. And what happens is, instead of saying like green good and 1G in green, it changes color. And it goes to, it'll say marginal and it'll be yellow. And if the cable's really bad, it'll be red and it'll say fail.
So cool. So it's so easy to understand.
Right, yeah. So all that stuff. A bunch of other things you can see with the encoders is we can get our video resolutions, whether or not the signal's HDR or not, color depth. We also have hot plug detect resets. Really important feature. I don't have to go to the physical unit and unplug it and plug it back in to get a hot plug to go. I can just click right here and click reset.
So cool.
And it's done, just like that. On the encoder or decoder side, we also have the similar diagnostics. And one of the things you'll notice is that in the list of our decoders, we have one that's in white. It says LGTR. And you can see that it's failed. Okay, so this gives you an idea what it would look like and what to go focus on and find out what's going on there.
Exactly. You get on site, you see this red one failed, boom, I'm going to go to that section. I'm going to start. Now I'm going to check that cable. Now I'm going to check those connections. Now I may need to re-terminate the endpoints. All so quick for you. It's just really, really cool, quick tool, John.
Yeah, it's really cool. Also, you can get like your resolutions going on, whether it's HDR or not. We also have audio information, HDCP.
Tons of information.
Tons of information. One that I really like is the connected sync display column right here. You can see these model numbers here. These are model numbers of the televisions or displays that are plugged into the system. This is being read directly from the EDIT of the display.
That's incredible. So you didn't type this in.
I didn't type it in
This
at all.
Just populated by reading the information that's coming out of the TV and into this ecosystem that you have with MXNet.
Exactly. And then over here is of course my encoder sources. So right here is the signals I'm actually getting from whatever sources I've got.
Sure.
And so that's a quick peek at the diagnostics. Now, once you have all this stuff set up, the next thing you do is you just simply go to Auto Matrix, and it automatically loads this up and turns it into a little switching matrix. And not only that, but it shows you little thumbnails of the content that's playing on those particular sources. And this content, the thumbnails are updated every 12 seconds.
That's just so cool. I mean, because you have this here, it's a confident test, and you would think something this robust would cost extra, a part of this ecosystem. I can't believe it just comes with.
Yeah, it just comes with it. It's just part of it. And for example, if I wanted to send something like my Apple TV 4K, if I wanted to send that to specific displays, I click on it as a source. You'll see how it's got a little green or orange border around it. That means I selected it. Then I just click on the actual displays I want to send that signal to, and they all get that orange border. So now you can see the Apple TV is sending it to those particular displays. If I change to the Roku, you'll see a different set of displays have that border on them.
Very
as
cool.
I switch back and forth. Okay, so just a really nice, quick and easy built-in, test, if you will, that you can test your switching, making sure everything's working the way it's supposed to be, everything's going to the places where you expected them to go. Okay. Another thing we can do is video walls. We mentioned unlimited video walls. This has been real handy. We have a job out there that needs 7 video walls, and nobody else can do it but us, because everybody else video wall count stops at like 4 or 5. So we got the job just by doing that. But this is the video wall interface. It's fairly easy. I'm going to go ahead and recall a display here, measurements. This one doesn't happen to have any bezels, so I just put in a 16:9. This is for demonstration purposes only. I can also recall the actual video wall that I created, so I can have a list of video walls here to read from. I just have the one. I then choose the source. You notice how it lights up on the screen, and as you can see, I can have a 2x2 or a 3x3.
Amazing.
And if I have TVs, and especially on the 2x2, if I have TVs that have fat bottom bezels, I can actually rotate the image 180 degrees just by checking that rotate 180 degree box right here.
Very
Okay.
cool.
Once I do that, and all I have to do is click the button that says generate video wall, and I have just generated the video wall. That's it. It's that easy.
Simple as that.
It's that easy, and it takes care of all the bezel compensation, everything, just by putting in the measurements of the active areas of the display and the outside dimensions of the TV. It does all the bezel compensation just like that. We also have some advanced kind of things that we can just, I'll just run through real quick.
Yeah, when we were talking about kind of the different kind of routing and control features that you can
Yes.
have, these signal routing, right?
Right, yeah. So this is ways for testing, make sure things work. So for example, I have CEC over HDMI. Now in the world of CEC, especially for televisions, it was supposed to be a standard. It has never been a standard. And so there's at least 40 different power on commands for all these different manufacturers of TVs, and there's at least 40 different power off commands. So when you choose, let's say, a CEC control, and I'm going to say, let's do this one right here, I simply choose CEC. I don't do anything else but say, that's how I'm going to control it. The next thing I do is I say, let's send it to certain TVs that I want to send that command to. All right, and then I close that, and I can even give it a name. I'll just call it CEC test for now. Okay, and then I'll close that, and we'll see right here, it's CEC test. Here's the TVs I'm going to send it to. Now all I have to do is hit the power off and see if they turn off, or power on, see if they turn on. All right, so that's CEC. Now,
Sure.
it's not a guarantee that it's going to work because it's CEC. Okay, and you got lots of different implementations of CEC in the world, and some are CEC, and then there's and then they get kind of paired together with the audio ARC.
Sure.
And those two fight with each other, and that messes up your CEC as well. So you just have to kind of play that one by ear.
Of course, but as integrators, you guys already know that, right? I mean, so you just use this tool if you use CEC, you have the CEC testing, and you can send commands here. If you use RS-232, it seems to be the same way, and you just have these other tools that John has built into the MXNet Mentor for you.
Yes. And so there's all these different things. We also have direct RS-232 and IR routing. Very easy to do. Let's say, for example, on my encoder, you have it right there. On here, on the front of the encoder, we have a little RS-232 terminator block here. I would plug, let's say, from a control system processor, CPU, I would plug in an RS-232 cable here. And on the other end is my receiver or receivers. And it also has an RS-232 terminator block that would plug into the back of the TV that has an RS-232 port on it, okay? At that point, on Mentor, I can choose the host, meaning the decoder, or encoder, I mean, and then choose which TVs are going to get that RS-232 signal, just like I do with the switching. And that's all I have to do to route that signal to multiple units, just that easy. And last but not least is our USB or KVM, keyboard video mouse, where I can set up a host, and I can set up the input device, which is going to be the decoder. and I can plug in a keyboard or a mouse or a camera or a microphone, that type of thing.
That's right. Route that USB the way that you want. So, well,
So,
amazing, John.
Yeah, thank you. Yeah, that's a quick look at MXNet Mentor.
And we only went over by like 4 minutes, guys. So I mean, that's pretty good, John, huh? We did a pretty good job, right?
I went as fast as I could go.
How about you unshare your screen now, John, by hitting this button that green one right there. Now, guys, I want to just say thanks everybody for joining us. This is the MXNet ecosystem. I hope you liked what you saw, and if you guys have any questions at all, you just give us a call, 605-274-6055, or give us an email at info@avproedge.com. We will get right out to you and make sure that any questions you have are answered.